Good afternoon. Welcome to the next wave. I'm Young Sohn, and today I'm excited to sit down with Oliver Holle, the founder and CEO of Speedinvest.
Good afternoon. Thank
Good
you
to
for
see
having
you,
me.
Oliver. Yeah, in beautiful Vienna, which is one of my favorite cities in Europe, although it's raining today.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's the only day it rained in the last 2 weeks, so it's good for work.
Yeah. I want to welcome you to the Next Wave speaker series. This speaker series really began 5 years ago when we went through pandemic, and we want to share and communicate the message from entrepreneurs, CEOs, and the people that are building technology for good. So we want to make sure we have an opportunity to talk about you. You have built one of the largest European early stage venture capital fund. And I'm very happy that I can also share your journey with you today. But I think today I'm really excited to be here to talk about how began your journey and what are some of your experiences you can share with the next generation of entrepreneurs and wannabes like you.
Thank you, Young, for having me. It's really a privilege and a pleasure. I've been doing this for a while. So I started my first company in the late 90s. So actually, when the internet, basically the first internet wave. And I think founders today should be really happy and privileged because back then, as a founder, you were all alone. There was nobody else, at least in Vienna, in Europe. All the founders that were building, they were alone. Nobody was able to teach us. Nobody was able to talk to us. And it's very different now. You have experienced VCs. You have a lot of other founders. You have founders that actually went all the way to build huge companies in Europe. So that's an amazing ecosystem that we have now that we didn't have back then. So once I sold my company and moved back to Europe after a couple of years in the US, I felt, okay, let's make sure that the next generation has a bit of an easier path, and I can maybe support a little bit on that journey.
So we're talking about really the helping startups to have partners to build companies that can be able to have this journey. And I think we often say venture capitalist is an important role, but we sometimes assume it's there. But actually, what you're saying is in Europe, the capital, the experience, the venture capitalists, they can help soundboard finance companies wasn't really available 20 years ago. That's what you're talking about.
Absolutely was not. I think the more experienced you are as an investor, as a VC, the more humility you feel, and the more you know what you don't know. I think back then a lot of investors actually felt that they know exactly where to take founders, what they told them what to do, and so on, which was at the end of the day a disaster. I think nowadays you have people like you, maybe also a little bit like me, that have went through a journey as an operator, and that they also understand how difficult it is and how little you know and how complex the world is. And I think that kind of perspective is very helpful for founders because you're sitting on the same side of the table and not on the other side. And that's ultimately, I think, also what Silicon Valley was all about many years ago. And we have now this ecosystem for a while now in Europe as well.
So in many ways, what you've been doing is really you build companies and you want to share the building company journey with the other entrepreneurs. And that is something that we assume in Silicon Valley is everywhere, but actually, depending on where you go, although the talent pool is plenty, great universities in Europe, and they have some really successful companies came out of here too. In technology area, I'm involved in 2 companies, right? Which is the really architecture of all the digital products today, from mobile phones to data center that are going on, to ASML, which is a company that are spin out of Philips, but also it is a startup back then. And today, without that, you cannot make small geometry chips, right? So it is very possible Europe to innovate, build it, but not having strong venture community starve those opportunities.
Absolutely. but I think people underestimate how big the European VC ecosystem already is, or the innovation ecosystem already is. It's, of course, compared to the US, it's still it's 20 years behind in reality. But on the other hand, if you look at the latest data, just in Europe, we have now 700 startups that built 100 million or more in revenues, 700 companies that just came out of nowhere between the last 5-6 years. So that's a meaningful size of I would say, a critical size of scale-ups that we have in Europe. And also on the VC side, we have now finally, I would say, a very sophisticated crop of investors who are building and coming back and also want to build meaningful VC firms. And when I started, people told me that the biggest size for an early stage fund is 50 million, nothing bigger than that. Yeah? So, and so ambition is changing, perspectives are changing, and the world is more converging to where, yeah, basically Silicon Valley has been for a while.
So, Oliver, I just realized the audience may not know too much about Speedinvest, which I love the name, Speedinvest. So could you tell a little bit about Speedinvest history, the size, scale, and people, and where you're investing?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, Speedinvest, I came up with that name because I was so frustrated with the non-speed of, of the lack of speed of the European venture community back then as a founder. Right. So I wanted to, if not, you have to say no all the time as a VC, but at least you want to have a fast no. You don't want to drag out process forever. So yeah, I built Speedinvest 15 years ago. We started off as a very tiny pre-seed seed fund in Austria, in Vienna. And over time build it into one of the largest firms or platforms for early stage VC. We're still focusing really on the pre-seed seed level across Europe. We have teams in London, in Paris, in Berlin, in Munich, in Vienna, and now also in Dubai. And are building a portfolio by now of more than 400 companies across the continent. The way we learned how to really create value for founders was through vertical specialization. So if you think of Speedinvest, you could think of 6 different teams going from climate to deep tech to health to fintech marketplaces and so on, with each of these teams covering all of Europe. And that's a value proposition that very few other firms have because it's super difficult to do. You need to invest a lot in company building and in building the infrastructure, investing in people to really have that coverage. And that's a bit of our unique value proposition now.
You know, I think that I've been now investing for some time as well. And venture capital is such a local business, you know, and you think about geography of Europe, it really is not a one location, right? It's so many different languages.
It's hard.
And culture, and the connection, the people, universities. So being able to build this coverage, that are pan-European coverage with the local teams, it must be hard, but you build it. So you have that best coverage out here.
It's an entrepreneurial exercise. I still consider myself as an entrepreneur, as you do. When you've built so many companies, and you know, I think once you're in that mode, you keep doing it. And I enjoy it, but it would have been much easier if you start in London, you probably stay in London because you have enough of deal flow, enough of everything. But if you're born in Vienna as a firm, you have to go out, and there's no way back. And I think that sets us apart a little bit. But I was also wanting to ask you. I mean, you now, we've been working a little bit together now, so you know Europe. I mean, what is for you still the biggest difference between the US, Silicon Valley, and Europe?
Yeah, so we have worked together for over 8 years, and we were investor of Speedinvest as well from prior role that I played. I'm actually very also happy that I'm chairman of Speedinvest, which is a newly positioned to help to guide the next stage of Speedinvest. And so in this journey, I'm really excited to work with you. The reason I think of Speedinvest when I think about last 8 years, it is truly a pan-European platform. And also you have the most, let's say, coverage of the early stage companies which is very hard to cover the kind of the companies that are out there with very wide sector. But most importantly, I always see you as an entrepreneur, not just typical venture capitalist.
I think that's why we connected so well.
Right. Yeah, because I think that just, not all money is created equal, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of money out there, but it's being able to bring experience and being able to bring company building and being able to solve and being able to help the companies, I think is truly what venture capitalists should do. And having entrepreneur experience is a real positive. And I see a lot of the energy at Speedinvest. And this is why I was involved with you guys. And I think that opportunity for building even greater is even, I think it's a really opportune time because of the where we are today. The world is becoming, moving much faster, but also geographically more complex. There is a different geopolitical and geo forces that are shaping. And I think innovation is about the only way we can create jobs and we can create solvency from all the forces that are out there. And I think Europe is a very interesting place to have to be unified, to accelerate and push innovation.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think the latest developments on the geopolitical side actually, in a way, of course, you could argue it's very bad for Europe with the war in Ukraine and with all the friction between the US and Europe. On the other hand, it also created a sense of urgency in Europe that actually I see as quite a positive. Actually, there's a wave of innovation going on. There's a wave of the need for sovereignty on the tech side in Europe, and also a lot of founders that actually really are feeling that they need to build and they need to stay in Europe and actually build in Europe. So that's exciting. And also where you are helping, and then I think for me personally, a very, very interesting new perspective is to build bridges to Asia, which needs trust, we need relationships, build bridges also to maybe to GCC and Africa, what we have been building on, already working on for a while. So the world becomes multipolar in many ways, and I think Europe has an opportunity now to do that. But you need a mindset that is global, and that's why I'm so thankful because it would, I think, understanding what great looks like is something that we need, and that's where I think we all can still learn from.
I mean, I look at what do we need to be successful in this journey, right? And open, I call it 4 eyes. And the eyes surround really ideas, right? You need to have innovative ideas and then innovation engine. And then you need to have investment, as well as then you need to have an independent source about where do you want to go. And those 4 eyes are really fundamental. And I'm going to talk about this tomorrow at Technology Talk Austria, which I was asked to keynote. And I think in those areas, I think ideas are really excellent. There's a lot of great ideas, and there are a lot of great inventors coming out of Europe. Clearly great universities and great mind. It's the area of innovation, where I think how do you go from ideas to technology to product to customers. It's in that engine, I think that global opportunity can help. And then I think around investment, you have to put investment where the opportunity is. And I believe investment has been more traditional investment, corporations and government spending, but not enough on innovative economy, right? And then lastly, what we just discussed around the importance of AI, importance of data, and how do you make sure that your country, your region have enough independence, enough privacy, enough solvency, so you're not relying on Chinese or American domination in this journey, right? I think these are some of the topics where Koreans and Japanese will have similar ideas as Europeans would worry.
Yeah.
And there is an opportunity to collaborate, and maybe same in Africa and other places too.
And this kind of very, very clear perspective and focus on the innovation economy, that for you it's so natural, right? That's what you spend your time on. And if you go on stage tomorrow, you will tell people about it. The truth is, in Europe, in Austria, and in many other European countries, it's still a side issue. It's still not the dominant strategic question that politicians wake up in the morning and ask themselves, how can we win in this race? It's not the question they ask themselves. It's a question that maybe comes not even the top 10 of the world list, and it should be all the way up there. I think in the US it's all the way up there, in China it's all the way up there. And creating that kind of sense of urgency to explain how critically important that is. And I think if Austrians tell Austrians, doesn't matter, but maybe if you tell them, it will make a difference. And that's also where I feel everybody here can learn, because we need to make this front and center. It will define the future of our kids.
I just look at U.S. economy, right? It's just one benchmark, since I spent a lot of time there. 25 years ago, if you look at top 10 most valuable company on earth, right? It was a lot of oil, a lot of banking, right? And maybe there's one tech company.
Some retail maybe, and then a little bit of tech.
But if you look at top 10 most valuable company in the S&P today, 7 out of 10 is tech companies. So what does it tell you? It's an innovation economy. That's driving the economy last 25 years. It's in that transition. If you do that same analysis in Europe, I think it's a very different number. So I think it shows that the idea of many great, brilliant people, but at the end of the day, innovation economy-wise, US and China is way ahead than Europe, and that's an opportunity to catch up.
It has to be. We have no choice.
Right.
And you're really amazing in the way that how much you travel across the world, how much you see different perspectives. What would you, if you have to say one thing or two things about Europe where you think, okay, we actually have an advantage, not just catching up, what comes to your mind, if anything?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what comes to mind is so many brilliant engineers and talent and the culture and tradition. Yeah. Absolutely, it's brilliant. Yeah. And I think you want to maintain your strengths. I think all you need is to transition into traditional economy to innovation economy and recognize this is important and recognize this is probably the only way you can create new jobs. And especially with AI, it's accelerating and there's no choice. And therefore, I think you have to embrace that. And I think to do it, I believe that investment is really critical. Think about Singapore. Singapore is a small country that are size of Austria, right? Yeah. But yet their investment capital is $1 trillion when you put GIC and Temasek together. Yeah. How much does Austria investing in, investment in this area?
So we're actually celebrating that we are now probably will have 100 million to invest in funds, in venture funds. So that just shows the difference, and that's already an achievement. So I'm not want to talk bad about it, but it just shows the difference.
Right. So I think what it shows is that the government policy making and where the money is spent, and the priority was different. Yeah. So it does show, if you believe innovation economy is important, then frankly, one, investment level have to change. Two, I think there have to be consistent European rules of engagement for startups. So US has very clear how the option grants works. The options are the stocks you give to employees. And when you give these shares, only when you make money, you pay tax. Yeah. Whereas in Germany or Austria,
it's so complicated.
When you give them grant, you pay tax. So it's not an incentive because you don't know that stock could go away, right? Yeah. The valuation is not very clear. It does make sense to me. You should only pay tax when you make money, not paper and money.
And of course, there are all kinds of ways around it, and people figure it out, but it's complicated, it costs money, it takes too long. So in that sense, I want to make a quick advertisement announcement. There's a petition going on at the moment. It's called EU Inc., EU.inc. And basically the startup community is coming together, the VC community is coming together to push the European Union to finally introduce this single legal entity. Andy Klinger, an Austrian, actually is pushing this very much, and we are very much supporting it. I didn't bring the hat today, but
that's a really good idea. And I would really say, if you really believe innovation economy is important, Europe should adopt and make it easier, make it simpler.
Doesn't cost anything.
And make it faster and clarify the rules of the game.
Yeah,
because when the rules are clear, talent can really accelerate and perform, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on the talent side, I mean, I've been doing this for a while in Europe, and I think the European talent is now, on the technical side, I think we always had great talent. I look at the many top scientists, many top researchers or engineers in the US are coming from Europe. So that was never a problem. The problem was ambition to some degree. The problem was ambition, perspective, and thinking big enough, and actually also empowering yourself that you are the one that actually can go all the way. And I think we are now at the point where we have sufficient role models in Europe that actually have shown that they can do it out of Europe, and you can build big companies out of Europe. And then if I take a step back, and I think if you would have the capital and we have the ambition, the place is beautiful. It's beautiful to live here. The society is, relatively speaking, a sane and healthy society. So there's so much, there's everything we need actually, and money. I mean, Europe has enough money. we just need to reallocate a few percentage points of the wealth, and we're fine. So
well, also innovation economy fits well with the European, I think, the mindset as well as the geographic perspective, right? You know, if you think about resource perspective, innovation is all about idea generation, rather than having a very big resource for energy or resource for other kind of a capital that you need. So in many ways, I think it's a better way of focus. So that would be something that I highly encourage.
We will not win with oil or with gas, or that's unlikely.
No.
And tourism alone will not save it either.
No, I don't think so.
It's nice, but it's not.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So let's talk about European startups out there. What are some of your companies that you are very excited about?
Yeah, so I think this, of course, everybody talks about AI these days, rightfully. I think it's one of those areas that is extremely, people still underestimate how big the impact will be. And yeah, so we have a number of portfolio companies in that space that are extremely interesting. One of them is actually an Austrian company, so I have to promote it. It's called EMI. And they are building a foundational model for physical simulations, for physical processes, thermodynamics, aerodynamics. Huge issue, not solvable by traditional LLMs, and also that's where data makes a huge difference. And Europe has tremendous access to data around physics because we have so much companies out there that are in the manufacturing space. So I'm very bullish about this one. It's just an example. Universities spin out, working closely with European champions in manufacturing, and hopefully really world-class.
Yeah, in fact, I do remember talking to Johannes,
exactly,
the founder, right? The professor at Lund University there.
Yeah.
And I'm involved in Cadence, which does a lot of simulation and modeling. The whole world is actually migrating from physical to physical simulation to physical AI. And I think what they're working on is very fundamental, so that you can be able to accelerate a lot of secondary, tertiary effects that are going on and when you're simulating things. So very exciting, what I call, if you think about AI journey, you have this whole imaging recognition type of things to the LLMs, where the speech and text-based understanding our knowledge and being able to articulate. Now it's a physical AI where you can train a lot of physical models and data, which in turn it can be able to predict how it's going to behave in certain conditions, when to go job, certain materials in combination and all of that. Very exciting.
Very exciting. Very exciting. There's so many other exciting companies. I don't even know where to start, but I think also health, biotech, tech bio, a huge topic, very, very interesting area. We invested in a French company called Oracle Bio, which is actually building on top of a proprietary database on cancer research in Paris, in France, and is building again an AI layer to actually significantly accelerate cancer research. And this is just, actually we had a conversation last night about the treatability of cancer. And with these developments in AI, I think we're years away. And that's, so I was joking if I make the cut, if I'm old enough or not too old to make the cut, to not worry about cancer in my life anymore. And these companies are pushing forward on that. And I think that's also where Europe has a tremendous opportunities with our research facilities and big companies in pharma as well.
I think we're very lucky that we went from operation to venture capital. It's it's a job where you can only learn.
Yeah.
It's a job you can only be curious.
Yeah.
It's a job we can make the difference.
Yeah.
And it's a job we feel like we can be helpful for other wannabe entrepreneurs. So, and it's also a job where we have to use our network to continue to expand and challenge. So this is I think, a very nice place to be. Do you have any advice for many people that are out there, especially youngsters who want to be a venture capitalist? What would be your recommendation and advice?
Honestly, I wouldn't even say go into venture immediately. I think building a company first or operating first would be a good thing. On the other hand, as always, there's so many ways to succeed, and we have also grown internally, team members, partners that really that went all the way just within Speedinvest, and that's also wonderful. So, but don't go into venture because you want to make fast money. That's wrong. It takes forever, and go where your heart is. I think the opportunity to build in Europe in this world of AI now is so huge, so tremendously big. It's one of the biggest platform shifts we've ever seen. So I would totally go there if I would be young, and then go into venture.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? People often talk about successful venture capitalists and being success, but they don't talk about many people that fails. They also don't talk about how long it takes.
Oh my God!
How long it takes.
Oh my God!
Right? I mean, I look at my own portfolio companies. I think our fund in Lippe, I invest in over 600 companies, and average exit is 8.7 years.
And that's fast.
And that's fast.
and that's because you're very good. And that's on average, I think it's more in the industry.
So it's a long game.
It's a long game.
Yeah, it requires patience.
Yeah,
does. And you have to do it for long.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it now. When I was lucky when I started with Speedinvest, we had really 10 years of only up and to the right. I mean, the industry was growing, valuations were growing, you were seeing up rounds. The last 3-4 years were tough, very few exits. A lot of companies that looked amazing actually were written off. So I'm also seeing it in the industry. I'm seeing it in Speedinvest, but people are considering, is this really what I want to do? Because it's not only suddenly maybe I'm not the best investor out there. Like 5 years ago, everybody thought he's the best investor, he or she. So, and that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. I think you need to think hard if you want to be in that industry.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that if I think about over the last 20-some years, there is a wave, and the wave is not always one direction. No. When there's a wind blows and tide comes in, everything looks faster, everything looks good, everything is up. And then you're right. I mean, year 2000 was really, really one of those years. I think that 2022 was another year that began what I call realization. Not everything is going up, and the reality of a valuation adjustment. And that's probably was a wake-up call for many people for 10 years thinking everything is in only one direction.
Yeah, everybody's world champion.
Yeah, so I think other than AI, everything else is going. AI and chips are the two areas I think is hot, but everything else is like going through a lot of adjustment.
So hard to raise rounds, so hard to raise up rounds. But it's okay. I think that's we all have to accept this kind of cyclicality. I listened to a podcast recently, and Josh Koppelman from First Round Capital in the US, and he mentioned I think 83% of all his returns, of all his cash returns, came within 3 years over a 25-year horizon. So just shows how you just have to be patient.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's no magic bullet, unfortunately.
Yeah. And there is an up and down. And when it's tide is up, everybody want to join in. Yeah. But then we need some pruning, cleaning, and the true colors comes out for those patient and that are going to be the winners, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think there, Europeans, that's the same thing we can do, because Europeans have never, at least in the tech ecosystem, we all have been used to work with little money. We have all been more capital efficient, and so there's a certain DNA, I think, in the European tech ecosystem that is actually used to be patient and to push through and to do it. So that's a good thing for us.
Yeah, no, I would say that some of these, what I call inflationary pressure, came from mega investors. Yeah. I mean, I would just say that my friend Masa, SoftBank, along with Tiger,
there were a few of those,
and a few others, they really inflate the whole private valuation to the degree where they have to all readjust the reality in year 2022, 2003. In a way, we're paying the price of this hyperinflation. We do. And it's like printing extra money. And eventually you have to absorb this extra money. Yeah. And I believe you're right. The valuation today is much more realistic, much more sane, and it's actually good for good investors because then you're not out of the market that are inflated.
Yeah, and you start to understand your world again. Because at some point in 21, 22, I kind of lost track. I thought, oh, what's going on here? I don't get it anymore.
So I have one question for you. There's always this discussion in Europe, innovation versus the regulation. And US policy typically had been more like, let the technology companies go. And then if you are in violation or if you are creating problems, then they're trying to bring them in. And you've seen that with the Facebook. You've seen them with the other companies in AI. What do you think about European policy, and what do you is it helping you, or do you think it's hindering you, or what is your perspective on that?
So, first principle, let's take the example of clean energy or of climate change. Yeah, I'm personally, I really care about this. I think it's a big problem if we don't care about climate change and we ignore it. It will not be good. So in that sense, and regulation is one part of many instruments to tackle this. That being said, we live in a world where game theory applies. And if I speak of game theory, I mean, if there are like 3 blocks and 2 blocks go this way, then the 3rd block cannot just ignore that and go the other way. And that's what we have at the moment between Europe, China, and the US, where basically US and China go all in on innovation. They basically prioritize this among everything else. The regulation is, in terms of priorities, all the way down. And in this environment, having one remaining block that tries to regulate is a losing proposition. Even if you would think that in a non-game game theory world, everybody should actually have at least a certain level of regulation. But we don't. We have 2 blocks that move forward, and there's no way that Europe can compete or can even keep up this kind of regulatory pressure with just its own market. And that's the reality, and we have to face it.
So the way I look at in tech to be successful, right? We need to have a speed, right? Which is what you're saying, and scale, which is what I said about investment. Yeah. And how do you bring more speed and scale if you really want to support innovation economy. I think that's the challenge.
Exactly, and you cannot, the innovation, for example, the AI Act in the European Union is a massive problem. It's a massive problem. Of course, now, as usual, European entrepreneurs are very, very flexible and they know how to find a way around it, but it's not helping. No, it's not. Right. Even though the intention is right, the thinking of why this is dangerous, I totally subscribe to that, but that is not the way to do it, right. Unfortunately.
It's about balancing the opportunity with the risk with a proper guardrail, but the guardrails are so tight or not flexible or slow, then nothing happens.
And ignoring the biggest market in the world with the US, who is not doing this, it's just irrational. You cannot think of Europe as an island that operates on its own land. We are competing on a global level, and if we are putting a brake on our own entrepreneurs, it's not going to be helpful.
Right. I think that is well said. And so there's a real opportunity to, you can only go up, right? It's an opportunity.
Yeah. And it's, I think, you know what, on the other hand, you've been doing this much longer than me, but even I've been doing it now for 15 years. I haven't seen one company that failed because of regulation.
Right.
So if it's a great entrepreneur and they have an amazing product, they will succeed. They will go to the US. They will go to maybe to China, maybe to Japan. They will find a way.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I think it's an issue, but it's not. It will not stop us.
Right. So if I ask you on your companies you have, what would be your next unicorns?
It's funny. You know what? My next unicorn will be out of Africa.
Aha. That's right. Tell us more about your expansion coverage of the Middle East and Africa. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so we, as usual with entrepreneurs, you sometimes stumble upon opportunities. And in this case, it was a little bit like this. We've always been a very active and also, I would say, a well-known fintech investor in Europe. So we built a very strong portfolio in Europe and in fintech, pretty much across all the different use cases and business cases. And so we found out that actually African founders are very carefully looking what's going on in Europe. They were very carefully looking who is investing. So they reached out to us. So we didn't have any feet on the ground. We didn't have a team in Africa, not at all. But we got to see some of the most exciting teams there. And one of those teams out of Nigeria, it's Ladi, and Ladi is the CEO and founder. The company is called Move, Moove, and they are a car financing company actually supporting initially Nigerian taxi drivers or Uber drivers to own their own car, which is a life-changing thing in Nigeria. And they inserted themselves into the Uber app and therefore collateralized the car, collateralized the driving income from these drivers to actually get them to own the car. And these guys have been executing like crazy, have been going global very, very quickly from Nigeria to other African markets, to India, to the UK, and now to the US.
And I also heard they're going to Japan.
And now they actually go to Japan, right? And they go to Brazil. So it's just beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see. I love these entrepreneurial stories. And yeah, they relocated from Nigeria to Dubai. They're going to go public, hopefully soon, in this region. And yeah, it's one of those completely unlikely success stories. I think that's what we all really, really love.
Right. I love the story. I mean, the fact that coming from Nigeria and going the direction of global, presence, that you don't hear too often.
You don't hear too often. Yeah. Very, very impressive founders. Moving now into the autonomous vehicle space, because ultimately they are managing huge fleets now. And Waymo, for example, doesn't want to manage their own fleet. Very few of these tech companies want to do that part of the job, so they want to do it. So that's a big market.
Right. Excellent. It just shows your entrepreneurial instinct and also supporting the entrepreneurs that are coming from anywhere, which is great. Because there is really no boundary and border, nationality and culture, right, when it comes to entrepreneurship.
That's the beauty.
Yeah, and this is why I think Silicon Valley, by the way, has been successful. If you look at Silicon Valley startups, many of them are like me. 80% of them are immigrants. Why? Because they're much more hungry about what they want to do. And they want to prove themselves.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's, I think, yeah, the US will hopefully keep that, but also Europe will have to hopefully keep that
I think
attitude.
given where everything is going, every opportunity, right? I think Europe has a huge opportunity to attract those talent pool as well. So it makes a lot of sense to bring, as long as that flow of people movements is possible in the area of company building, business building, team building. I think that's really good lessons to have. Lastly, what advice do you give to founders?
It's a good question. The longer I do this, the more careful I am with advice. Because
true.
But I think that often I find myself talking people out of starting their own company, because I think what happens today, especially in the world of AI, is the whole principle of winner taking it all, or of really 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100 winning and everybody else losing, is even more brutal now. It's the winner is even more, so to say, gets even a bigger premium. So I think you have to be extremely careful to think very hard where you really are excellent, and only go there, and not just be a Me Too company is no more. I mean, and I think even 10, 20 years ago, it was possible to launch a copycat of a nice idea from the US in Germany and still get away with it. I don't think that's possible anymore.
Yeah, I think the world is brutal when it comes to innovative race. I mean, clearly you can have many delivery companies locally, but when it comes to technology-driven companies, where everybody wants the best technology, then only the winner takes it all. And this is where the knife edge comes in, which is a much sharper, and therefore you have to be the best, right?
And I actually, also talking to you and listening to you, I really, that resonates so much with me, because the very few companies, so the AI will take over so many parts of the value chain, that actually tech becomes so much more important, that even maybe very simple ideas are so tech driven that, again, technology wins, and then it becomes this winner takes all approach. So I would be very careful and very thoughtful before going into that.
We are encouraging founders. We just want to make sure if you're gonna do it, be the best.
Think about it. Insert yourself in an ecosystem, excellent people. Find your own role, and then run with it. But be careful before you jump into something just because it sounds fun. I did that.
Yeah, I always have this like a criteria. When I look at startups, it's called NABC, and it's a criteria used for all startups. The N stands for really need. Like, what problem are you solving? Like, are you doing something that you want to do, or is it some real pain point? And sometimes the articulation is, not as clear as you like to say it. And then A is approach, right? So it is about what is the unique approach you're doing? Are you doing a Me Too approach, or you have some moat that you can differentiate? And then the B stand for benefits. Benefits for stakeholders, for your customers, for your shareholders, for your investors, and for your employees. You should be clear. And then the lastly, the C is about competitive advantage. In other words, something that you have that you can be able to maintain, therefore you're going to be much better than others. So anyhow, that's my simple one-pager NABC for all founders.
Makes perfect sense. And it's easier said than done, right? Solving those 4 questions, those are big questions, each of them. It's very, very challenging, but extremely interesting.
But I really enjoy our discussion in Next Wave Talk. This is one of those journeys that I would love to bring your entrepreneurs that are promising, and then help them to expose to the audience. And to share their experience as they are being successful.
We already discussed this a little bit. I will send you a little bit of a short list, and that would be amazing.
Excellent.
It would be a privilege.
Well, thank you very much for your
time. Thank you.